Friends, today I am going to narrate an incident in front of you, which has been taken from an authentic book. One gentleman told us, "Every morning after Fajr prayer, I used to go to my father's graveyard. There I used to recite Surah Fatiha and then go to work. One day, on a Friday after Fajr prayer, I again went to my father's graveyard. As soon as I stepped into the graveyard, I felt a strange fragrance that I had never smelled before. Such a fragrance which I felt could not come from anything of this world. I was quite surprised and kept feeling that fragrance. After a while, I stood beside my father's grave and started reciting Surah Fatiha. At that moment, I saw a new grave had been made right beside my father's grave. Fresh flowers in a sheet were placed over the grave, which made it look like it had been made 2 or 3 days ago. While returning, I thought I would also pray for that new grave. So I walked towards that grave and started making a prayer of forgiveness. While praying, I noticed that the fragrance I was smelling when I entered the graveyard was actually coming from this new grave. Out of curiosity, I lifted some soil from the grave and was surprised. The soil was very cold and soft, like wet soil, but in reality, the soil was dry. I placed the soil back on the grave and left the graveyard, heading to my shop. As I sat in the shop, the first customer who came in said, "Brother, today you're wearing a very fragrant perfume." I was surprised and told him, "What perfume are you talking about? I haven't applied anything. Look, I even have soil on my hands." But the customer said, "No, brother. The perfume you are using is really nice. I have never smelled such a fragrance before." Hearing this, I was even more surprised. When I brought my hand near my nose, I realized that the fragrance was actually coming from the soil stuck to my hand. After that, I washed my hands several times, but still, the fragrance did not go away. On the next day, that is, the next Friday, I again went to the graveyard. After praying for forgiveness at my father's grave, I went towards the new grave. I started wondering, why is this grave so cold and fragrant? Was the person lying here so virtuous? I went to the graveyard caretaker and asked, "Whose grave is this?" The caretaker replied, "This is a woman's grave." After hearing this, I was even more surprised. I started wondering, what kind of deeds did this woman do that her grave is so fragrant and cold? The next day, that is Saturday after Fajr prayer, I again went to the graveyard. Although I usually sleep for some time after Fajr prayer, that day I didn't sleep. Right after praying Fajr, I went straight to the graveyard. I saw an elderly man sitting beside the new grave, reciting the Quran. I stood in front of my father's grave and recited Surah Fatiha. I prayed for my father's forgiveness. I noticed that the elderly man was also praying for the new grave. When his prayer ended, I saw tears falling from his eyes. He was crying and lamenting. I realized the elderly man's love for the woman lying in the grave was very deep. That is why he could not bear her departure. He was crying in agony, unable to tolerate her loss. I saw, after finishing the prayer, that elderly man was leaving the place. As he was leaving, I called him. I said, "Uncle, please listen for a moment. Give me a little time. I apologize if I am troubling you, but I just want to know the answer to one question. If you don't mind, may I ask?" Then he said, "What is there to mind in this? Ask whatever you want to ask." He replied with great respect and affection. I said, "Thank you, Uncle. I want to ask, whose grave were you praying for? If it is something you can share with me, please tell me." Then he said, "Why are you asking me this question?" I said, "Actually, the fragrance coming from this grave has overwhelmed me. The fragrance that comes from this grave, I have never experienced it anywhere else in the world. Somehow, I feel this fragrance is not of this world. I just want to know, did the person lying in this grave do such deeds because of which she has attained such an honored position? And why is her grave so cold, so peaceful, and why does such fragrance come from it?" Hearing my words, the elderly man sighed deeply and said, "Why wouldn't her grave be peaceful? She used to please Allah Ta'ala in this very way when she was alive." I said, "That is exactly what I want to know. What did she fulfill? What such deeds did she do because of which she earned such an honorable position?" Then the elderly man said, "This is my wife's grave. We were together for 30 years. I am the only brother among my 4 sisters. My sisters and my mother had a strong desire to see me married. As soon as I started doing something in life, they started looking for a moon-like bride for me. Then, within a few days, a girl was found, and I got married to her. My mother and sisters fulfilled all their wishes, and on the wedding night, before I even lifted her veil, I folded my hands in front of my wife and said, 'Please forgive me. I won't be able to fulfill your rights. I am not worthy of fulfilling your expectations.' I clearly told her, there is no manhood in me. I also said I actually did not want to get married. I only got married to fulfill the wishes of my mother and sisters. Now, if you want, you may leave me." My wife lowered my hands and said, "No matter how you are my husband. You are my deen, my destiny, and I want to stay with you." From that day on, that servant of Allah spent 30 years with me. She patiently endured all the harsh words from my family, endured the blame of being infertile, but protected my dignity. Why wouldn't Allah Ta'ala keep her grave peaceful and pure? She lived a pure and sacred life in this world. Saying this, that elderly man started crying uncontrollably. He said, "This woman stayed with me for 30 years with patience, and the greatest thing is, she protected my honor. That is why Allah Ta'ala has granted her a place in the cool shade of Jannah." That man further said, "My son, I just want to tell you one thing. If you want loyalty from a woman, then give her time, give her love, give her trust, and above all, give her respect. Then she will not hesitate to give her life for you. She will never betray you. And those women who show patience, who protect their husband's honor, and who keep their husband's secrets, such women have a very high status in the sight of Allah Ta'ala." Friends, now we will tell you the story of a wife who used to sit beside her husband's grave and cry every day. Then, one day, suddenly, her husband came out of the grave. After that, what happened will leave you shocked. That's why this video is very special for you, so make sure to watch it till the end. Friends, in a village near ours, there lived a boy named Sajid. He was not very educated and also not very good looking. Because of this, he couldn't get married anywhere, but he had a cousin named Sabina, who was very beautiful. Sajid secretly fell in love with her. One day, Sajid told his family about his feelings. Then his family sent a proposal to Sajid's uncle. Sajid's uncle agreed to the marriage. After that, Sajid and Sabina got married. When Sabina started living with Sajid, she realized that marrying Sajid was a big mistake. Sabina became very worried. She thought to herself, "My husband is neither handsome nor qualified, so how will I spend my entire life with such a person?" Thinking this way, Sabina started disliking Sajid, but she remained silent. Friends, 3 to 4 days after the wedding, as is common, the bride goes to her parents' house. Sabina also went to visit her parents after a few days and decided in her heart that she would never return to Sajid's home. However, she didn't have the courage to speak directly to her parents about this. After going to her father's house, she thought, "He is my cousin after all, and I agreed to this marriage myself, so now there is no point in telling my parents about separation." On the third day, Sajid went to his in-laws' house to bring his wife back. He stayed one day and then started his journey back home with his wife. Their path was from one village to another. While traveling, Sabina said, "I'm feeling very thirsty." There was a well beside the road. Sajid started pulling up water from the well using a bucket. Then, Satan whispered evil thoughts into Sabina's mind. Sabina pushed Sajid into the well from behind. She thought, "Sajid will drown in the water and die, and I will be free from him for life." Thinking this, she returned to her father's house and began to cry like other women. She entered the house while crying loudly. When her father saw her like this, he asked, "Dear, what happened to you?" Then Sabina told her father, "My husband left me somewhere and went away. I don't know where he went. I waited for a long time, but he didn't return. That's why I came back home." Hearing this, her father said, "This boy is really foolish. He left our daughter alone and disappeared." So friends, that was one side of the story. Now hear the other side. After falling into the well, Sajid struggled to save his life. Then, he managed to grab the rope that was hanging with the bucket. Holding it tightly, he climbed up and finally came out safely. In this way, he survived. After getting out, he thought, "How could my wife do this to me? Why would she do such a thing?" Anyway, he thought, "I'll go back to bring her again. Maybe she will change this time." Thinking this, Sajid set out for his in-laws' house once again. When he reached there, Sabina's parents scolded him a lot. They said, "What kind of brainless person are you? You left our daughter alone in a deserted place and went away? You are so careless and foolish. What if something had happened to our daughter?" Sajid silently tolerated all of their words. After they were done, he simply said, "I made a big mistake. It won't happen again. Please allow Sabina to come with me." When Sabina's parents saw that Sajid was truly sorry for his actions, they told Sabina, "Forget what happened. Go back with your husband. He won't do anything like this again." Then Sabina returned with Sajid, but in her heart she began to think, "Even if he is uneducated, foolish, and not very good-looking, he is a man with a big heart. He didn't reveal my actions in front of my parents. If he wanted, he could have exposed my true face. Then I could never have shown my face to my parents again." From that day on, Sabina's loyalty and love for Sajid grew so much that she accepted him as her own with all her heart. The husband saw that his wife was truly ashamed of what she had done, and she had changed a lot. That is why he never brought up that incident again in front of her. Anyway, after that, a deep love developed between them. So much love that they couldn't stay even a moment without each other. Just like that, 5 years passed before they even realized it. However, the only void in their lives was the absence of a child. Both of them deeply desired to have a child, but despite all their efforts, Allah did not bless them with that gift. Finally, one day Allah Almighty accepted their prayer as well. They found out that a child was coming to light up their home. That was the happiest day of their lives. Sabina felt like all her dreams had come true. But perhaps Allah had something else planned. Just 6 months into the pregnancy, Sajid died in an accident. Sabina was traumatized by the sudden death of her husband. Crying day and night, her condition deteriorated. She felt like her entire life was over, that she might not be able to survive anymore. But the only reason she stayed alive was the child in her womb. She didn't just want to bring her husband's last memory into this world. She also wanted to make that final legacy of her husband a Hafiz of the Quran. Sajid was buried in the graveyard. From that day on, Sabina would go to the grave every day and recite Quran. Going to the grave and reading Quran while crying became a part of her daily life. Not a single day went by when she didn't visit her husband's grave. 9 months passed like this. Finally, Sabina's time for delivery arrived. One day, she was sitting beside her husband's grave, crying. That's when her labor pain began. The pain became so intense that she collapsed right there, beside her husband's grave. In extreme pain, she screamed for help. But there was no one in the graveyard at that time, no one nearby who could help her. Struggling in pain, her condition worsened to the point that she felt like her end had come. She raised her hands and prayed to Allah Almighty. "O Allah, I want to bring my husband's last memory into this world. You are the greatest helper. Please help me." Her vision blurred from the pain, her body weakened. It felt like she was dying. Just then, suddenly, someone came from behind and held her hand. She looked through her blurred eyes and almost fainted, because the person who held her hand was none other than Sajid himself. Sabina broke down in tears. Crying, she said, "Please forgive me. I couldn't bring your last memory into this world. I think I'm going to die before that." But Sajid gently stroked her head with great affection. Then he picked her up in his arms and carried her out of the graveyard. After a long time, Sabina regained consciousness. She saw that she was lying in a quiet room, and nearby, the sound of a newborn crying could be heard. She couldn't understand anything. Panicking, she looked around and began calling her husband, "Sajid! Sajid, where are you?" Just then an old woman came in and said, Many congratulations to you. Allah Almighty has blessed you with a baby boy." Sabina asked in surprise, "Where am I now?" The old woman replied, "Your condition was very critical. A man brought you to me. I am the village midwife. By Allah's infinite mercy, he brought you here at the right time. Otherwise, neither you nor your child might have survived." Sabina asked in amazement, "But who was that man?" The old woman said, "I don't know." He didn't say a word. I didn't even see his face because he had his face covered with a shawl. He just handed you over to me and quietly left. Dear friends, who was that mysterious person? Was it really Sajid? Or a hidden helper sent by Allah Almighty? Sabina still hasn't found the answer to that question. But yes, she knows. Whoever it was, he was a mercy from Allah. Sabina held her child close to her chest and cried softly, offering her thanks to Allah. 8 years have passed, but she has never stopped visiting her husband's grave. Even today, she hasn't forgotten Sajid. But she is happy because the last memory of her husband, her child, is still with her. We hope, dear friends, you liked today's story. If you did, please like and share it with your friends. We'll meet again in the next video. Allah Hafiz.